The first and overriding concern is the public health and safety of the people that live here and the people that would visit us. That was the focus, and it remained the focus through all the discussions. But at the end of the day, this is a hard call to make because it does have a huge economic impact. I'm heartbroken for the businesses in our community that really rely on this event for their income for the year.
In a major move, city officials today in Austin declared a local disaster and canceled this month's popular South by Southwest festival. This over coronavirus fears. The decision will no doubt have an enormous economic impact on the city and the area. The New York Times reports, quote, last year, the various events associated with South by Southwest, which also include programs on gaming, comedy, and education, contributed $356 million to the economy of Austin, according to figures circulated by the festival. Here with us tonight, Maya Wiley, former assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, now with the New School here in New York, and Victoria DeFrancesco Soto, professor and assistant dean at the LBJ School of Public Affairs at the University of Texas in Austin. Victoria, you are at the scene of what we were just talking about, so let me ask you about it. For folks who aren't immediately familiar with South by Southwest, I've heard of it for years. I've never been. Describe what this means to Austin, what the event means, and what the impact of canceling it will be.
Right. So the impact is multidimensional. As we heard Mayor Adler talk about the numbers, the figures, hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue come in with South by Southwest. So there's that piece of it. There's the cultural component. South by Southwest has been a feature of the Austin culture for over 3 decades. It is part of who we are. It is part of our DNA here in Austin. So my heart aches in knowing that South by Southwest is canceled. And then the other piece is understanding that South by Southwest has always been this beautiful space of creativity that really is a launching pad for creativity nationally and internationally. So lately, we've come to think about South by Southwest, about the Googles and the Twitters and the Facebooks, but really it's about these thousands of filmmakers, musicians, writers who come here and have a space to create. And as of late, we also see educators, gamers, all types of creative types come here, and this is their space. That is no longer the case. And I think the other two groups that are really going to be severely affected by the cancellation, small business owners, and then the service industry. So for 10 days, all restaurants, hotels, bars, everything in Austin is packed. What this means is a lot of headaches for us Austinites, but we take it. We don't mind it because we know it is so important to our economy. It is so important to the folks here. And it's just, Steve, I can't express to you how much it hurts. But knowing, again, that this was a move that the mayor had to make.
Well, that's my other question to you. And I wonder if this is something that cities around the country and really around the world are going to be dealing with in the coming weeks and the coming months, having to make wrenching decisions with real economic consequences, just like you're describing. The reaction on the ground, the folks you're talking with there, do they share what you just expressed, the sense of this is terrible for Austin, but it is the correct decision?
You know, I think in the last couple of days, as we've seen the crisis of the lack of testing kits come to the fore, I think that has pushed folks to understand that this was the lesser of two evils. There had been a petition to cancel South by Southwest that had been, 5 or 6 days. But I would say in the last 2 to 3 days, we saw that ramp up. And that's when we saw these conversations because of the lack of leadership that we're seeing from the White House. We're seeing the CDC not giving us the answers that we as a nation want. So I think that what we saw in the last 48 hours was the precipitating cause of this and what ultimately is making folks say, this sucks. We're going to lose a ton of money, but better safe than sorry, especially because we're not seeing the federal reaction. We're looking to the state and local level to protect us.
So Maya, Victoria is telling us what's happening in Austin, Texas. We're sitting here in the largest city in the United States, and there have been some reported cases around here. Certainly it's in the news here as it is everywhere else. What is your expectation of big cities like New York and what they're going to be dealing with in the coming weeks?
Well, I think we're getting a preview from Austin. I have to say, I go to South by Southwest every year wearing my faculty hat. The new school is usually represented well at South by Southwest, so I completely agree with Victoria. I've also had the pleasure of knowing Mayor Adler when I worked with Mayor Bill de Blasio. Austin is a really important city. Look, but this is exactly what we're facing, and I think I just want to underscore what Victoria said. Mayor de Blasio has begged for more tests. And that's because, as a city, if you're trying to figure out where you need to contain a problem in order to prevent more people from getting sick, it's because you can test and see where it's happening. Here in New York, we learned just this week that we have almost 3,000 people in self-quarantine. 3,000. Those are people who, if we could test them, might not need to be in quarantine. They might be able to go to school. They might be able to go to work knowing that they're not infecting anyone. So this notion of the test itself, its availability, critically important to every community, rural, urban, everywhere, in order to make sound decisions, including to be able to not overreact. But how can you be sure you're protecting your residents if you don't get trustworthy information, if you're not getting consistent information, and if you can't do the testing?
And all of it's so critical, especially in a city like New York and others like it, the population just so close together, so densely
Riding
populated.
subways.
Everybody coming into contact with everybody else, it seems. Well, this is a discussion we're having now and seems like we'll be having for the near future at least.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.